This is what I want to say. Great piece. This is what I want to say. Africans, if you have the choice to move to a city in America when you're coming over here on a passport and visa program, think about Detroit instead of going to Ohio or Indiana or Illinois. You know, you can take Detroit right across the river into Canada. You can take Detroit, right up into, if you're going down one of the main streets like Woodward or Grand River, you can take that to Grand Rapids. You can take that to northern Michigan. So and get into Canada, right? And that's also, major resources here like, water. I'm not saying that energy will be affordable, but I'm sure you can afford it if you're coming from Africa, given the relationship and programming between United States and the African leagues that are in the diaspora. Why go to Chicago? The thing about Chicago is this, right? You don't get time to relax. You don't get time to relax. And even when you do relax, people are going to notice that you're relaxing. So you don't want that. You don't want that. In Detroit, it's the complete opposite. You get to relax and people know you're relaxing and they don't bother the fact that you're relaxing. Only thing you got to watch out for in Detroit is the police and the justice system. That's the only thing you got to watch out for. And I say that because, as you noticed in my past video, I've mentioned about the James Craig administration in Detroit. It wasn't too good. And I have to say the police chief's name, because if there's a police chief who comes along, it can be from any era, right? It can be a mayor, I'm going to highlight their department and their failures, so if you're coming to Detroit, you just got to watch out for the police. They're going to make life hard on you in a sense that, if you're just outside enjoying your life like you do in your country, like we used to do in Chicago, our country, the police, like they do there, they'll just, in some areas where there's high gang activity, that's been they only come around in Chicago when there's been a lot of shootings. Once the shootings disappear, you're not going to see the police, until it starts up again. So, when you see a place like Detroit and you say the kids don't go outside and play as much because the adults fear that the police is going to come to their house and say, why doesn't your car have insurance? Or, they're going to come to your house and say, you're late on your taxes. Because when you look at Detroit, right, it's a city that has homes. It's homes, it's everywhere throughout the city, right? Whether you're going towards Royal Oak, whether you're going towards Midtown, whether you're going towards downtown Canada, there's homes everywhere. So if you have homeowners here and you don't have a home association fee you have to pay, a home ownership association fee, if you're not paying that, you don't have an HOA, then, it's easier. You're giving a chance to come here and give input on how you want to see the city ran. Because we're at that stage now where you got young faces coming in trying to be the mayors, and then, once the mayor is picked, they're leaving the regime of Mayor Mike Duggan. They're leaving that regime. So this is where people want to have a chance to give input. What you want to see with this abandoned building that's sitting there being a blight on everybody's eyes. You want to see it torn down? What you want to build there? Africans, you all have investment. You all have voices. You all have political aspirations. You all have education savvy. You all have technology advances. You all have countries. Come here. Come to Southeast Michigan, come to Detroit, and invest. Invest. This is my proposal to you all, because like if I were to be the mayor of this city, I would quickly contact, embassies and see like how can we get more Africans to come here? How can we do that? I would want to make Detroit the capital for Africans abroad. For all Africans who are coming here, I want to make this little Africa. When you look at Detroit, right, you go to the city of Detroit. A lot of investment, you can clearly see it, but, there's not a lot of people here. So, like, if you can come here and replace the people who were here, who had left and came back, and who had left again, if you can replace those people who were here, you can get homes. The city has contractors who can build those homes up. You all have the investment. I think like really a lot of Africans just don't know about Detroit. I don't think they know about it, but like, you come here and you invest, like you'll quickly see that, it wasn't a mistake, because you all, by coming here, right, you all can affect the fact that, you can erase stereotypes about Africans in America. You can erase stereotypes about, police, in their patrolment. You can erase those, you can erase those stereotypes, so that's what I want to see. I see Walter Maier, he goes all over, the Caribbean, all over Africa. And like, no one ever says like, let's check out some of the cities that are in North America. And I think a lot of them don't want to do that because they're constantly told that, there's a xenophobia that's here. Because like, there's like, right, with Africans, right? They're told by Americans that, the ones who are black, who go by black when they're really brown, right? They're told by them they're not welcome here. They're told by them they're not welcome here. So you say, well, if I'm not welcome here, then where am I welcome? Where am I welcome? And you start to see that, all the people in the black community don't feel that way. You know what I mean? I know the people I'm close to, they don't say anything about me being, not me specifically, but I haven't heard them like by being around them, that they don't necessarily like Africans. You know what I mean? But like, it's not a priority of them to not like them. You see some brown people in the black community, it's at a point where they feel like it's their priority to hate Africans. But I can't necessarily say I've seen that in my circles, that people are like that. But I know there's like people, they distance themselves from me when I, make videos like this, or, I act a different way around, the people who I'm made relationships with or who I've just meeting. I introduce myself in a way that people who've known me for years may not agree with, you know what I mean? So I don't know, like it's a priority for some though. I do know that to dislike Africans. I do know that much. But, give it a thought, invest in, a place that's investing in other countries in Africa. Because like you all are going to get your returns, you definitely are. Come here, work, come here, be a homeowner, come here and be a citizen and a resident, come here and be us. You know what I mean? Like we welcome you. Great peace, Yakoki.